Hello, hello, hello. We are live again. I'm trying to do a live video every single week, and well, actually, I missed last week, so I guess I got to do two this week. But anyways, on today's live video, we are going to be talking about the best way to know your home's true value. So we'll be covering a couple things here. And one of the very first things that we're going to talk about is defining what value actually is. So there's three types of value that can exist out there. There's the appraised value, there's an assessed value, and then there's market value. And the one that we're going to really focus on is market value. So just to kind of explain what those first two are, the appraised value is the value that a property appraiser is going to do on your home when you're looking to borrow money, usually most of the time. So this may be somebody coming from an appraisal company. They're going to look at comparable properties through the same MLS system that real estate agents use. And they're going to go to the home and do an assessment based off of the materials that are in the home, used to build the home, and based off of the condition of the home as well. So very similar to what we do. Then they're going to give this report to a lender, a mortgage lender, or somebody who's looking to refinance or whatever, so that you can get that appraised value of the home. Okay, and this doesn't always necessarily align with the market value of the home. The next type of value that is out there is the assessed value, right? Now, this is what the government bases our property taxes off of. Okay, so here in New Brunswick, if you guys are watching this and you're in New Brunswick, we pay our property taxes based off of the assessed value of the home. Now, in New Brunswick, the way that it works is each municipality has its own tax rate, and they times that tax rate based off the assessed value of the home. So based off of your municipality, if you had a home, let's just say for easy math, that was assessed at $100,000, it may be a different tax amount in one city than in another city because it's based off of that municipality rate. So generally, people think that this is how we price homes in real estate, is based off of the government assessed value. But there's a lot of things that are wrong with that. And basically what it doesn't take into account are the buyers and the sellers out there. Buyer motivation and seller motivation. So I always used to tell people, the assessed value is basically when somebody from the government assesses your house. Now, what used to happen was they used to send out an assessment, right, to property owners. And they used to ask property owners what upgrades they've done to the house, if they've done anything, right? That comes about once a year. And not everybody tells the truth on that. And then every now and then what they would do is they would look at a satellite image of your home, right? And they would compare properties within each other. So they'd say, well, if this one's worth this much, this one's across the road, it's probably worth this much. It's probably worth this much. They may send somebody down the road to drive to the road and do an assessment of the property from the outside of the house. And then occasionally what might happen is somebody may knock on your door and ask to come in and do an assessment, right? And we always just joke around, if you let that person in, just make sure you don't let them out because they're only there to raise your taxes, okay? So that's kind of a good way of doing, an assessed value of a property, but it's not true market value the way that a real estate agent would do market value. Okay, so market value is based off of definitely those first two things where we're looking at comparables, we're looking at the state of the property, and certainly going in and looking at the property itself, but it also takes into account real estate trends and market demand. Okay, so in order to find out market value, the best way that we can do that certainly is by going through the house and by looking at comparable properties that have sold. Okay, so there's a little bit of science to this and there's a little bit of art to this, right? You have to have like a feel to what's going on in the market, but you also have to use data to get there. So generally what we do is we base this all based off of comparables and then just kind of knowing the trends that are going around. One of the things that's really, really important is understanding that most people think that there's only one way to price a property for market value. But a good real estate agent knows that there's actually three ways to price a property. Okay, they make perfect sense as soon as I say it. You can overprice the property, you can price the property fairly, or you can underprice the property, right? And each of those pricing strategies may end up getting a seller a different value at the end of the transaction. Okay, so there's no wrong answers. There's just expectations that go along with them, and I'll kind of explain the different pricing strategies that go along with pricing a house. The first pricing strategy is overpricing the home. So in real estate, this is what we call the needle in a haystack strategy, right? So this is where of all the buyers that are out there, you're just looking for the one buyer who's going to pay your price, okay? So we're looking at the comparables, we're pricing above those comparables, and we're just looking for that one buyer. Generally, what happens with this home is it stays on the market for a long time. If it does get offers, it gets lowball offers. If it does sell, it usually involves 1 or 2 price reductions, or maybe even more than that, usually of 5%. And it's a good strategy for somebody who's not in a rush. It's a good strategy for somebody who doesn't know where they're going to go, but usually it ends in a lower sale amount than these other 2 pricing strategies that I'm going to talk about. So that's pricing strategy number 1. Pricing strategy number 2 is where we price the property fairly. So this is the most commonly used thing that the most commonly used pricing strategy that people use. And this is where we look at the comparables. We find a comparable home that would be similar to your home or a person's home, and we price the same way that they priced. So we base our price off of their sale price. Right? Might be a little bit above, might be a little bit below, but it's basically the same thing. Generally, this is going to sell in our market somewhere between like 98 and 101% of that list price. It's going to sell in a couple weeks, or maybe 2 weeks, sort of type thing, and it's going to land right on that market value, right around where we think that it is. Good strategy, fair strategy for sure. The risk along with that is just if you get your comparable wrong, or you kind of hit this little dip in demand in the market, you might not get that price. And then the third pricing strategy is what a lot of savvy sellers are doing, and some are doing it without even realizing they're doing it. And that's where we look at the comparable properties and we price just below, because you don't want to give it away. Okay, so you look at those comparable properties again, see what they're selling for, and you price just a smidge under it, usually somewhere between 5 or 10% underneath it. And what this does is when you price just below is all of the buyers start focusing on one property. Okay. So when all the buyers focus on one property, what happens to the price? The price goes up. So this is how we usually get in multiple offers. You have like these extraordinary prices that are going crazy. Usually it changes conventional negotiation, and buyers are more likely to be a lot easier on their conditions. But usually you have these high prices, and in St. John right now we're about 104.9%. Sales to list price ratio. That means that they're selling just under 5% more than the list price. So it's a very, very common strategy that we're using here, along with our seller's direction form. It's a great strategy again for people who are risk adverse, are not afraid to take risks. It's a great strategy for people who want those high prices and want those. And the risk along with that pricing strategy is that, again, if you just hit a little lull in the market, or you don't really do your research, or you're not confident in your research, you might not get that high price that you're hoping for. So yeah, I thought I'd just hop on here really quick, just talk about the difference in, again, appraised value, assessed value, market value, and then talk about those 3 pricing strategies so that you guys can have something to go off of, learn how real estate agents price a home. And listen, I hope that was helpful. I'm going to hop on here live again. I'm looking at the time here. That was 9 minutes of me talking straight. So yeah, there we go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.